Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Diana Mayfield, and I'm the head of content here at Design Files. Today, we are joined by our awesome CEO, Sheila McSporran, and Sheila is going to teach us all about how to create client presentations that win over your client without taking you hours and hours and hours to create. How's it going today, Sheila?
It's going good on my end. How about you?
Awesome, doing well. I'm excited for us to dive into another, feature workshop and get your expert tips. Everybody loves when we get to see, your take on the features. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I'm going to let you take it away. And everybody, as you're watching, please feel free to post, your questions in the comments. You don't have to wait for Q&A. Just pop them in there as you think of them.
Okay, awesome. Well, I am actually really excited to jump in for this particular session because I feel like there's a lot of you that are probably using the moodboard tool within Design Files to create your concept boards or create your room mockups, but you might not be using it to create your entire client presentation slide deck. And that's actually something that you can do using the moodboard tools. So I thought we would just dive into a session that's focused 100% about creating client presentations. We'll talk a little bit about some of the slides you might want to consider for those presentations. We'll talk about how you can create them using the moodboard tools and also how you can set them up as templates so that you can use them for future projects to just make the whole process so much faster for you. So we actually do, as always, we have a lot that we're going to be trying to squeeze into this session. So I think it's probably best if we just jump right in and get started.
Let's do it. Oh, and yeah, we're getting a question if this will be viewable afterwards. Yes, we will have the replay on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share set up. And then Diana, if you can just let me know if everything is showing as it should on your end.
Okay.
And I think we can just remove my profile image there, just so we can take up the mass amount of screen space there.
Let's see here. You are good to go. Let's see.
Okay, let me know if I'm still showing or if it's just my screen.
It's just your screen. So yeah, so it's just going to be your screen now.
Okay, then I think that we're all set here. So to prepare for this presentation, I actually went ahead and I created a variety of different presentation slides that could be included within a client presentation, which you can see here on the screen in front of you. So to begin with, why don't we just dive in and we'll talk a little bit about some of the slides that you might want to include within your client presentation. Because if you're doing a really detailed project, there's probably a number of different areas that you're going to be talking about. And it helps to have everything broken down into a flow within your client presentation so that you've got structure and it just makes it easy on your client to follow along. So I'm going to jump into the first design right here. Actually, I don't need to go into the editor. We'll just look at it from this view. So your first slide will probably be your cover slide. Your cover slide can really be pretty simple and minimal. You don't have to include a ton of information on it. And you can see with the design that I've got right here, I kept it pretty basic. So I'm really only including the project name. If I was only focusing on a specific room for this project, I might choose to include that room as well. I've added in my logo, and you can see that I've basically filled the vast majority of this slide with just a visual image. So this is completely up to you. It's personal preference. I like the idea of including a visual image. It could be something from your portfolio, so you can include that. But it's just something that can help get your client a little bit excited about working with you because they can see other projects that you've actually done. If you don't want to include an image, you could just opt for having your project name front and center, maybe a little larger. You could include things like the date you started that the project is going to be kicking off on. You could also include your logo and maybe some contact details. So maybe it's your website address and your email address or something like that. But your cover slide is essentially just getting this whole project started, and you don't have to include too much in it. Now, the next one that you could choose to include would be your table of contents. And this is really helpful if you are going to be dealing with a large project where you are covering a variety of different areas. So your table of contents helps provide structure for your overall presentation. And what's nice about it is that if you are not in the same room as your client as you're presenting, then you can just say, okay, let's jump over to slide 4. We're going to talk about material and finishes. Or maybe let's jump on down there to slide 8. We're going to talk about the renders. And then it makes it easy for your client to follow along. Now, once I've kind of gotten past my cover slide and my table of contents, I like the idea of kickstarting the presentation with something visual and fun, something that's going to get your client excited about working with you and moving forward and listening through for this presentation. So I have put the mood board / concept board slide as kind of the initial slide that we're going to kickstart this whole discussion about. Again, this is totally up to you to how you want to order out your slides. But I do think that kickstarting with something that gets your client excited and gets them to start dreaming up or trying to visualize the space is probably a good idea. So you could choose to create your concept / mood board slide like this. Or if you do like the idea of creating more of that full room mock-up, then you could also add that here. And then I would probably follow that with a floor plan slide. So we're showing them, here's some of the selections that I'm recommending for your space. And then we're going to jump into the floor plan so they can get an idea for how all of this is going to get laid out. And they can also kind of start to visualize how people are going to be able to flow through the space. The slide that I put after that would be the material and finishes slide. And quite frankly, what I love about this slide is just how pretty it is. So I think that this is a really nice slide to include within your presentations. I also think that it can work really well when you are presenting, because whether you're projecting this on a wall or if you are showing it on a computer screen, you can do that, but then you can also slide your samples box in front of your client so they can start, picking up the samples and feeling them and just kind of testing out all the different options that you are recommending for the space. But if they don't have their hands on that sample box all the time, they can always come back to this presentation and they can see all these different options that you are recommending for the space. Now, if you are going to include a material and finishes slide, there's different ways that you can approach this, obviously. I really like how clean and structured this is. That's just my personal preference. But you might choose to create something that's more of a collage like this. So it really comes down to how you like to create your design boards. The only thing that I would say is that if you are creating your material and finishes slide, it's probably a good idea to reserve your larger swatches for the finishes that are going to be kind of the main focuses for the space. So anything like your flooring or your wall color or the ceiling textures or whatever, anything that's going to be kind of large and in charge within the space, I would save those for the larger swatches. And then your smaller accent details would be for the smaller swatch options over here, just so that you can kind of create that visual hierarchy for, what's going to be most prominent within the space and then what are the smaller accents. Now, other slides that you might want to include within your client presentation. So if you are going to be providing elevation drawings, it's really quick and easy to just copy and paste an elevation drawing into a branded mood board template, just like this. So you might choose to have a branded footer, and then you can just copy and paste those images for your elevations. Or if you're also doing millwork details, it's a great idea to include any drawings that you've got for your millwork details into your client presentations as well, so that your client can start to get a sense for what that's really going to look like, and it'll help them visualize the end results. Now, beyond that, this is one that you can consider. It's just a simple lighting plan, right? So this is by no means, this is not something that is a detailed lighting plan that I'm going to give over to a contractor. This is just a simple plan to show the client, here's the basic layout that I'm thinking for where all of these lighting fixtures are going to go. And the way that I've pulled this together is I included an image of my floor plan. I've got all of the options for the different types of lighting that I'm going to include within the space. I use the paint color library to create little icons for each one of these in different colors. And then I'm just mapping out where all of those items are going to go within the floor plan. Now, I also just had a little bit of extra space. So you can choose to do this if you want. You don't necessarily have to. But I just included images of the lighting fixtures so the client can see how all of these are going to work together. Now, you definitely want to include your renderings within your client presentation. I like the idea, and again, personal preference, everybody has their own way for setting up their presentations. But I like the idea of adding your rendering slides to the tail end of your presentation, because I want to basically end on a high note before I get into the project timeline and the budget recommendations for this space. So including your renderings towards the end can give you a chance to get your client excited about this overall direction that you're going in. Another thing that you might want to consider, just to kind of level it up a bit, you could choose to include maybe a before picture of their space in the top corner here and then have your rendering, or you could have two different slides where it's the before and the after. So you're showing what the client space looks like currently, and this is going to be the end result. And then that can kind of help them really, it can kind of add to that wow factor for the changes that you're recommending for the space. And then from there, what you could do is you could lead into your project timeline. So we're kind of getting the client excited about this overall vision, but we do need to make sure that they are aware and they're educated for what this is going to take to kind of complete this project. So I basically created a project timeline slide, and I'm just breaking it down into specific phases and giving an indication for how long they can expect these phases to last. Now, depending on the type of project you're taking on, you might not have as many phases, so you could just strip it down to what the phases that you're going to need. But I do think it makes sense to just try to give some sort of visual cue to your client for what they can expect when it comes to the timeline. And then I would probably close out the presentation with the budget recommendations. So we've gone ahead, we've presented an overall design and direction for this space. Your client's going to want to get a sense for, okay, what is this really going to cost me? So including a slide for your budget recommendations and how you recommend breaking down, how much is going to be spent on decor and furniture, just kind of estimates, can help you kind of explain the overall cost. Sorry, tickle in the throat. Can help you explain the overall cost to your client and give them a sense for how everything is going to get divided and allocated for each of these categories. Okay, so those are the slides that you might want to consider including within your client presentation. You might very well have other slides that you think would be a great addition to a client presentation. And if you do, then go ahead and add those to the chat, because this is a learning session for everybody. So it's great to just kind of share your thoughts on what else could be potentially included. And then we can discuss that and address basically building out that suggestion as a separate slide and saving that as a template that you can use over and over again. So now that we've kind of gone through some of the different slides that you might want to consider for your client presentation, let's talk a little bit about how you would go about creating all of these slides and then saving them as templates that you can use over and over again. So we'll use this one right here, our table of contents, as an example. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up that one. Now, when I open this up, the reason I'm using this one as an example is because we've got a variety of different elements that we're going to be experimenting with. We've got the background color, we've got large images, we've got a space for the logo, and we're also including text within this particular slide. So I'm just going to zoom out. Well, actually, maybe I'll do F11 here. Perfect. Okay, so that should kind of open up the screen so that we're maximizing the space here. So basically, when I went about creating these slides, I just kind of broke it down into different elements. So to begin with, I started by adding a paint swatch as the kind of backdrop color for my overall slide, because I like the idea of maybe elevating it a little bit more, making it feel a little bit more high end versus just sticking with the stark white. So if you like the idea of doing that as well, you can always go into the paint color library. There's loads of colors that you can choose from. You guys probably already have a number of favorites that you like to use within your projects. So I basically went into Pharaoh and Ball and I used the strong white paint color. I just scaled it up and distorted it to fit the entire mood board canvas. And in this case, if I actually go into the image adjustment tool, you'll see that I brought the transparency down to 50%. So this is what it looks like when I bring it back to the full color or the full opacity. For me, that felt a bit too much. So if you feel like your colors are a little too punchy, then you can always use the transparency tool and then just take it down to maybe 50% or something like that, just to kind of soften it up a bit. The next thing that I did here was I brought in an image. So if you want to bring in some of your portfolio images and use them as visual elements on your slides, you can always go into your library, go into your assets, and then upload images directly to your assets. The reason you want to do this is because if you upload those images to your library or your project items, then those visual elements are going to show within the product list level. But if you add them to assets, they only show within your design board and they don't get added to the product list. So you don't have to then go back and try to, hide certain items on your product list. So you can save those images here and then you can drag them out and you can use them within your slide templates here. So if I click on this and I go over to the crop tool, you're going to see how large this image actually was. So I just cropped this down to a small section of it so that I could use it to cover half of my design board here. Because really on my table of contents, there's only so much that I'm going to add. So having a visual element is kind of nice. And again, I did go in and I went to the image adjustment tool and I took this down by 50% as well. Because for me, this is a little too punchy and really it's not the main focus of this slide. This is the main focus of the slide. So I just brought it down by 50%. So we've got a faded down image, but it does create a nice clean look. When you're building out your table of contents, or if you're adding any text to your design boards, you can always use the text library. So that's all I've done here. I went in and I picked a specific font, drag it out onto my canvas here, and then I can basically add, like table of contents. So over here, whenever you drag out a font, you're going to see that the right side panel is going to adjust and it's going to show you all of the text properties that you can adjust. So you could put in table of contents here and we'll just add a capital there. So I can do that. I could duplicate this. I can have a secondary one, and then I would build out the bottom section here for my table of contents. And I'm just going to hit F11 here so I can go back to my notepad here because I've got all of my table of contents that I want to add. And then again, I'm just going to put that in here. You're going to see how it looks on your in the mood board editor. So if you don't like the size of the font, you can change the font size and the line height here. You can just use these arrows if you like to just kind of bring it down to a font size that you like. And for me, this looked a little too jammed. So I actually just kind of increased the overall line height just to give it a little bit more space and make sure that this text filled out this portion of my slide nicely. Now, the other thing that you can do here is you've got the ability to change the color of the text too. So you can click into this field here and you can see that I just picked a dark kind of charcoal gray. If you have the exact text code of a specific color, you can add it in here, or you could just use the text field here to pick any specific color and then apply that to your text. Now, once you have your slides set up, this is the kind of slide that I could use over and over and over again for future projects. So instead of just saving this to my project and using it for this one and then having to rebuild it for another project, what you might want to consider doing is using your templates option right here. So if I want to save this, I would go up to my templates and I would save as a template. So I'm going to click this and I would title this table of contents, right? And I'm going to hit save. And then what's going to happen here is that design, this slide here is now going to be saved to my templates here. So I can pull it out for future projects. So you can see that I've done this for all of the individual slides that I want to include for future projects. Now, here's what's cool about that. Let's go ahead and we're going to save this particular design. But if I go ahead and spin up a brand new project, I want to show you how quickly you can pull it together by having all of your templates already saved. So I'm going to back out of here and let's go ahead and we're going to create a brand new project. And we'll just call this sample. So we'll create a new project. I'm going to go ahead and create my first design. We'll pop into the moodboard software here. And I'm going to go straight up to my templates and I'm going to say, okay, add in my cover slide. And boom, it's going to get added in. So now I can just edit the project name. I can change up the room if I want, and I'm just going to save this and add this to my project. So I don't always have to create every single thing from scratch. I'll be able to just quickly pull this together. Oh, that's really annoying. Hold on a second, guys. I need to hide something. Okay, perfect. There was a screen share thing that was blocking my view because the next thing that I wanted to show you was this awesome new feature that we just added. So at the bottom of your mood board, you're going to see there's a board thumbnails. If you open that up, it's going to show you the design that you just created, and it's going to show you have the ability to add a new design board. So if I click on this now and go back to the mood board, I'm going to go back into templates and I'm going to say, okay, great. Now add in my table of contents slide. And now that's added in. I can make any changes I need to this, save this, and now I've got 2 pages ready for my client presentation, and I can quickly start going through and adding all the other slides that I need to add to build this out. So it's really quick and easy for you to just pull all of this together. And if you're dealing with a team, having all of these, oh, I'm going to have to just save that. But having all of these saved as templates and being able to pull these out and then just immediately add all the products that you want will help you build this out really, really quickly. So in this case, with my mood board one, I'm just going to show you what I've got here. With my mood board one, it's not like I'm adding all of the products here. I'm only creating a templated slide that has this branded footer in it. And I'll probably have this for a variety of different slides within my presentation. So I might have one for my mood boards. I might have one for floor plans, for my electrical plan, for all kinds of things. If you wanted to basically make sure that for all of these slides that you're going to create that have that same branded footer, if you want to make sure that the text is the same color, the font is the same size, the text is in the exact same position, your logo's in the same position, here's a couple of tips that you can consider to build that out. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll save this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back out of here. And I'm going to open up I'm going to add a new design. I'm going to go into the moodboard software. I'm going to go back into my templates and you'll see that I've got this one up here that's called branded footer. So this is a very basic blank one that I've created. And you can see that it just says, let's zoom out here a little bit. You can see that it says slide title, and then it's got room, and then the logo and the page number. So it's just a basic one. So if you wanted to, there's 2 ways you could approach this. You could choose to just have your branded footer. And every time you want to create a new slide for your presentation, you would just load in your branded footer, come down here, and you would edit the title and the room and the page number. So I might go ahead and say, okay, this is going to be my mood board concept slide. And then I'll change the page number and I'll add in all my products and save it to my design presentation. Or if you like the idea of like more so how I've set it up here, where you've got all these different slides that you're going to include within your presentation or have all these saved as templates, I should say. Another thing you could do is you could take your basic branded footer, you would open that up in the moodboard software, and then I would come down here and I would edit the title here. So I might call this one moodboard/concept. And then I would come straight up to, I could change the page number. Actually, you wouldn't even need to, because this is just going to be a template that we're going to save. So you would really only change the title. So let's say we're going to call this one the moodboard/concept. I'd come up to templates and I would save this as my moodboard/template slide. I would save it. And then I'd come back down here and I would edit it and I would put in floor plan, and I would go to templates and I would save it and I would say floor plan slide. And I would do the same thing for all of them, because that way I can make sure that the font size, the placement, the color, where the logo's placed, where the line's placed is all going to be in the exact same position, so that when I actually go through my client presentation with my client, so if I go back here and we'll open up this one, you're going to see that, let's see here. I'm going to just use F11 here so I can get this up. You're going to see that all of this branded footer, all stays in exactly the same position. It's not jumping around. So the logo's up here, down here, the line's shifted to the left or shifted to the right. Everything's in the exact same position. So it makes it quick and easy for you to create those branded slides and make sure everything is cohesive. Now, another thing that you could consider here, just while we're at it, so let's go ahead and we'll open up, we're going to add a new design here. And let's open up the material and finishes slide. So this is originally what this looked like. And I'll just kind of zoom out here. So I basically created this with just a bunch of blank shapes here so that I can reuse this over and over and over again. And it's going to give me that exact location so that when I'm adding all of my textures in for future client projects, I'll know exactly where to put it and how to size it. So you could do something like this for your template. And then what you would do is basically, if you go into your project and you're bringing in all of your finishes, you would just drag in all of your large images of your finishes. You can use your left, right, and up, down arrows to line things up perfectly. Scale it down. And then what I'd probably do here is I'm just going to slide this over because I want to see where the bottom edge of this one is. Use the crop tool. Bring this up until it's in exactly the right position. Apply it. We're going to delete the one behind, and then we're going to slide this back into place, and we'll use our guides to make sure that the placement is exact. And then you can just do that for all of the other finishes that you want to include within your finished slide. So it just makes it easy for you to maintain that same layout for all future projects. And then again, you could just change up the text here to indicate where this particular finish is going to be placed within the space. Now, I am going to jump out of this because there's one last thing that I did want to bring up that will really help you out with building out your client presentations using the moodboard tools. So I'm going to open the editor here for this overall client presentation. And I'm going to bring up my board thumbnails because here you can see all of the individual slides that I've built out for this project. And the cool thing about using this tool here is that now I can quickly jump between the slides. So if I wanted to make changes to the table of contents, I could jump to the table of contents, make my changes, save it. And then maybe I'm like, you know what? I feel like I've got to make some changes to the mood board one. So I'm just going to jump over to the mood board slide, make my changes, save it. I can jump over to, I don't know, the project timeline and think, oh, you know what? We don't need construction for this one. So I'm just going to update this. And it just makes it really quick and easy for you to go from slide to slide and make your saved changes versus having to save your design back out of the editor, find the jump over to the appropriate design in your project, and then load that one in, and then have to kind of wait for your boards to load in. So there's a much faster workflow that can happen here if you're using the board thumbnails panel here. And the cool thing about this is that we're actually going to be expanding on its functionality. So the team's going to move forward with making changes to it so that you can copy and paste an element from one design board and paste it into another one, or change up the order of your design boards, just so that you have everything that you need in one view so that you can really get a full sense of, okay, this is what we're dealing with here. And I can quickly get from board to board. I can reorder things. I can copy and paste things and just have everything I need at my fingertips as I'm making my way through this project. Okay, I think I'm going to stop it here. And maybe let's just look at the questions. Let's take some questions now, and we can cover anything else that you guys might want to discuss.
All right, awesome. Okay, so should I remove the screen for now then?
Yeah, remove the screen because it looks like I don't have the ability to stop the screen share now because I hit it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so that was great. Let's see. Let me just scroll back up here. So we did get a few questions about, can we get this template? Is there a way that that this template could be provided so that we could construct our own? Is there any sort of, maybe we could work on that? I don't know.
Yeah. So I absolutely think that that's something that we could look into doing. So if you guys like the overall layout and the templates that I've created here, we could definitely look into building these in as options within your Design Files account so that you can just take these as the base and then make any changes that you want to them. So I'll just have to talk to the team to see what that will take time wise to get that prepared. But yeah, no problem there at all. We could definitely look into doing that.
Awesome. Okay. Yes, that covers like many questions. So let me scroll to find a different one. Okay. Does Design Files plan to have the option for elevations?
So we absolutely do. It's something that we're planning for. We would be looking at building that into the 3D floor planner. So we would just need to figure out how that's going to happen. The team is working on the kitchen functionality. We really need them to finish that off before they jump into anything else, any larger updates like elevations. So we will need to keep you posted on when we think that would be available.
Mm-hmm. Is there a way to include our brand colors onto the slide background?
So right now you would pull from, well, actually, you could, okay, here's what you could do. I was going to say right now you can use any of the colors within the paint color library, but let's say you're using something like Photoshop or whatever it is. You could literally just create an image that's just your brand color and then save that to your mood board library in your assets so that you can drag it out and then scale that up and use it as the backdrop color for your slides.
Okay. And then did you cover how to send a presentation through Design Files to the client and how they would open it?
Sure. I didn't actually cover that.
Okay.
So that's a great point. So let me see here. How do I go back
Add you
into...
back. It says that it's I can see the designer like drafts. Yeah, we can see it now.
Oh, you can see it? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So here's how I would go about doing that. So I've got my client presentation right here. I've got all the slides added. So what I would actually do is I would go into view this design. I'm going to submit the client presentation. I would add in my client's email address here. And then I would just turn the toggles on for all the slides that I want my client to be able to access. And then when they log in, they'll be able to see everything. So there might be slides in here that you don't want them to see. Like for instance, I have my floor plan and my rendering in here because I was building that out, but I wanted to include it within my branded presentation. So I would exclude these slides and only show the options where I've included it into the branded presentation. And then you can add a personal message, submit the designs to your client, and they'll be able to log in and see the entire thing.
Cool. Could you show, oh yeah, somebody wanted to just look at the cover slide again. So it has like the logo and put the project title. Got it. Okay, cool.
For the cover slides or for any, just a quick note on that, for the cover slides or for any of the slides, if you're curious about different layouts that you could explore, just literally go onto Google and just say interior design client presentation slide deck or interior design client presentation. You're going to see loads of options pop up, and then you can kind of pick and choose which layouts you like so that you can build it into your own templates.
Nice. At minute 18, somebody asked, what was that notepad?
Oh, that was just my my notepad on my desktop computer. So I just had this available so that I wasn't wasting time during my presentation to type out my full table of contents. So I just prepared it ahead of schedule so I could copy and paste it.
Got it. Okay.
Is that your dog?
That in the back.
Yeah, I hear a dog howling.
That noise was actually a siren.
Oh, okay.
I could see how that could sound like a dog, though. Yeah. Let's see. So where did I go? Oh, somebody's asking, can we import Canva presentations into Design Files?
Not the entire presentation as a oneer. What you could do is you could save any of your Canva presentation slides as a JPEG, and then you could save those JPEGs to your Design Files personal library within your assets, and then drag them out onto the mood board software so that each one would be an individual slide within your design files project. You could do that, but it would really come down to, like, if you're changing the overall layout, you would just want to make sure that, because it might look a little bit weird if it's not filling out the entire mood board canvas. So I would make sure that the dimensions were the same. And I believe it's 1024 by 768 for the mood board option within design files. If you're creating your Canva templates at that size, then they should be able to come in and scale up and fit perfectly within the mood board software.
Cool. So do you recommend having 2 projects per client, one for working and putting things together and one to create the presentation? Because the thumbnails are great, but I often have too many boards.
Okay, so that's a great point. So what you could do is you could choose to have 2 different client projects within your Design Files account, one that's going to be the final presentation, one that's also just going to be your working files. You could also keep it all as one project. And if you're wanting to send designs out, let me think about this. I was going to say, if you're wanting to send out your client presentation to your client, you would just select the boards that you want them to have access to view the whole client presentation, and you would exclude any of the working designs that you have. But it might be cleaner. It might be cleaner for you if you're dealing with a ton of boards to have 2 separate projects, one that's your working one that is your client presentation. One thing that we could keep, this just kind of made me think a little bit more. One thing that we could look into doing is perhaps having, like, allowing you to have a client presentation or a client project, and then you create folders within the client project so that one is specific for your overall client presentation, your final presentation, but maybe you can also have folders for all your living room designs, all your bathroom designs, all your kitchen designs, or something like that. If you're finding that you've got way too many design boards within a project, let's get a poll going for that.
Yeah.
Anybody else feeling a yay or a nay for that particular setup? Having projects or folders within your client project?
Getting some definitely positive, all capitals, excited about folders.
Okay.
We're getting some all caps, so
that's why we do these. That's why we do these presentations, you guys, so that we can have these discussions as they pop up. So, yeah. Okay, so that we can take that back to the team and we can look into how we would set that up. Hit me with any more questions that you might have, or even suggestions if you've got them.
Yeah, cool. So we got a couple of questions about sharing. So one is, how would you share it with a client in a slideshow form? And another is, are you suggesting that this is to be emailed to clients to then discuss over the phone and do a screen share during Zoom? Or is there something that I missed? So can you talk a little bit about slideshows and like the format for sharing?
Sure. So you could do it in a number of different ways. It really comes down to what you would prefer. So one, you could choose to send your client presentation directly to your client by doing this process right here and turning on the slides. Or another thing you could do is if you are going to be meeting up with your client face-to-face, then you can basically sit down on the sofa with them with your laptop open, and you could have your client presentation up, but you could switch into preview as a client, and then you would just flip through here. So it's not showing all of the edit buttons or anything else. You would just flip through and show all of your slides to your client as you're going through on your desktop. You could also choose to project this. So if you like having a more, I don't know, just a different way of setting things up, you might choose to project these slides up onto a projector or like a projection screen on the wall, and then you can go through it that way. If you were on Zoom, I would probably still jump into this client-facing mode so that you're not seeing all the extra buttons and edit options and everything else, or anything that's kind of specific to you as the designer, and then share your screen and make your way through your slides. So it really comes down to whether you're presenting in person, whether you're not, and what your preference is.
Thanks. Okay. We got a couple of questions about the F11 key, that you're using it to slide the viewing window.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you explain a little bit about what you're doing there?
I'm literally just hitting, okay, so you can see on my screen right now how it's showing all my Google tabs and everything. It's showing my bookmarks bar. So it's eating up a lot of the screen space. If you don't want that to show when you're presenting to your client, hit F11 on your keyboard and it will clear it. So it's just going to show you the full design file screen versus having all of that extra stuff at the top eating up about like 1.5 inches of your screen. So I'm just hitting F11 to hide it, and I hit F11 to bring it back whenever I need to.
Got it.
Cool.
Okay. And then downloading the presentation as a PDF. They'd have to would they have to download them individually? I know there's like PDF tools online to combine pages into one PDF. Oh, could it go the whole thing? Okay.
You can do the whole thing. So you would go into this button right here within your project. You're going to download the client presentation as a PDF. So you can choose to include all the design boards and product lists and design rationales, or you could just narrow it down to just the design boards. And if there's any in here that you don't want to include, like these two down here, you would just exclude them. You can do portrait or landscape. In this case, I would do landscape. And then I would hide the presentation header because we've already created branded templates. So I don't think that you would want to include the standard header that has your logo and your contact details and then have a branded template as well. So you would hide the presentation header and generate your presentation. And then the system will basically just create it for you. So, oh, hold on a second. That is exactly what I was trying to hide. Give me a second, you guys. Let's try this one more time. And I'll just see if this is if this is working as it should, or if we need to correct something here. Oh, I need to hide it.
Okay.
Yes. Read the instructions instead of ignoring them the way I do. Turn this on if you would like to hide the presentation header. Then you can generate. And we'll see what this looks like. Okay. So you can see that it's gone now. So now we've got this. And you can just show all the slides that you want. I want to see if I can. This makes me want to get rid of this, though.
You think?
Well, I'm seeing it in my, if you've got it listed here, then I kind of want to get rid of it here. So I'm going to talk to the team about potentially hiding the name of each board so that it's just the design. But that's essentially how you would do it.
Right. That could be like a separate toggle thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to clarify, a client won't see anything in the project until you share that specifically with them, right?
Correct. You have full control over what your client is going to see. So basically, anytime you submit a design to them, you're going to see that you have the option to say which design boards should your client see. You turn the toggles on for any designs you want them to see, leave the toggles off for any you don't want them to see, and then you can send it. The other thing that you can keep in mind is, let's say that you shared a design board with your client. So we'll use this one as an example. Let's say that I actually submitted this one to my client. I'll go ahead and submit it. And then maybe I wanted to make some changes to this design, and I don't necessarily want them to be able to see while I'm making changes. So I can go into this button right here, and down here, I can turn this toggle on to prevent my client from seeing this design board as I'm making changes to it. When I'm done making the changes to it, I can turn this back on when I'm ready for them to see it, and then I'll resubmit that design to the client. So you get to control what they can see and when they can see it at any time.
Cool. Okay, question about the rendering page. Did you use a DF template for the mood board, or did you create that?
For the rendering page, this rendering was made using the DesignFiles 3D floor planner. And then essentially what I did was I created a blank template in the mood board software. Let's just go ahead and I'm going to go back to my designs here. So you can see here that I've got my floor plan and my rendering, which I created using the 3D software. But both of these, whenever you create a floor plan or a 3D rendering, it's just going to show you that image. So it's not built into a branded template for your client presentation. If you like the idea of adding your renderings to a branded client presentation, what you can actually do is just right click on this, copy the image. I'm going to go back to my designs. I'll go to my renderings template here. So we'll open this. So essentially, my rendering template looks basically like this, right? It's very simple. There's nothing added to it. It's just going to have the title, the logo, the page number. And then what I can do is I can open this up. I'm going to hit Control V on my keyboard, or if I was on a Mac, I would hit Command V. And I'm going to load in my floor plan image. I'm going to save it to my assets. So I'll just let that load in, and then I'll just give it a name. So it will be saved over here to my library. And once it's saved over to my library, so we'll just call this render. We'll save this. And then I'm just going to drag this out onto my canvas here and scale it into place so that I can build it into the design.
Nice.
And I probably, you can increase the size of it to whatever you like. But essentially, it allows you to bring in your rendered images and build them into a branded template.
Nice. Our next question is, I'm wondering about the text feature. I find it very challenging to use the box to do the editing because the font is so small. Am I missing a way to see my text larger when wanting to go back in and edit? It would be nice to have the cursor on the actual design board for editing.
Okay, so let's add a design. We'll go into the moodboard software. I'm just going to bring in a branded footer here. So let's go ahead and we're going to add some text. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this correctly. So if I bring out some text, the preference is to not type in here, because one of the things, let's just see this. You can do this where you can expand this box. So if you're finding that, it was just a small box and you're adding a lot of text, you could expand this box so that when you're typing it out, you got a lot of space to work with. Mm-hmm. And then we could look into, it used to be on the board. We used to have it where you could type into the text box here, but we found that it was more, I guess, almost a little bit more logical to have the text in the same area with all the other text properties. So just a quick question. Does the ability to expand the text box as I've done here solve the problem that you're asking about? Or do you feel like it's just the overall size of the text in here that makes it hard to read?
Okay, Penny, if you're still with us, keep us posted if that resolves it.
I'm going to check one thing. I'm just going to hit Control. Let's see here. I was going to try hitting Control.
Says, no, I need the font larger in the box.
Okay. So I'll take
the size of the text is what's difficult for them to see. The size of the text in that box is difficult.
Okay. So thanks for letting me know. What I can do is I can take that back to the team, and we could look at either allowing designers to change the size of the font here, like just kind of the way we do down here, or maybe it's just a case where we just increase the font within this text block by a few points just to make it a bit larger, and you still adjust the overall size of the font down here so that it kind of shows on the design board at the size that you would like. So I'll take a note of that and we'll take it back to the team.
Okay. And so you talked about how you're working on the elevations. What about millwork? Will there be any tools for millwork?
So that would be down, that'll be down the line, because each and every one of these 3D requests is very time consuming and difficult to build out. So if we move forward with completing the kitchen, we still want to make sure that we are also addressing photorealistic 3D renders. We have had a lot of requests for elevations. If we can absolutely look into millwork as well, but it will be down the line because each and every one of those is going to take, it takes time to build these things, especially if you want to build them in a way that's easy and simple to use.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay, after submitting to the client and then we edit the board, can they see it, or do we need to resubmit the designs to them? They
can see it if you, okay, so let's go back into this mood board one. let's say you submitted this design to the client. You spoke about it. Your client said, "Hey, I don't really love this sofa. Can you show me a different option?" So you can absolutely go in and you can edit this design board. You can add in a new sofa. And technically, because you've already given them access to this design, unless you've chosen to do this, where you stopped allowing them to see this design board, they'll be able to see it. So if they log into their project, they're going to see the new sofa that you added. So it's up to you. I mean, they're going to see it. The new sofa that you've added, but I would still, just to make sure that they're aware that there's been a change here, I would just resubmit the design to the client and then add your message in here saying, "Hey, Sarah, just wanted to let you know that I added an additional option or an alternative option for the sofa. When you get a moment, please take a look." At least that way they're getting notified that the change is happening, so they can come back in, they can follow up with you, and you can keep moving the project forward. So even though technically, yes, they would be able to see the update or the new sofa that you had included here, it would still make sense to just notify them so they know to come in and look for it instead of accidentally happening upon it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And just an FYI, we're getting a lot of positive feedback on hiding that bottom text, in that lower left-hand corner, that duplicate text. So if that's a simple fix, maybe we can prio that. So next question is there a way to cut an image like a scissor tool? I need to shape a rug into an octagon shape, and a scissor tool would work great.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, we would have to, I've got to take that one back to the team. I don't have an option for you right now that would allow you to do that. Because technically you can crop it into a circle, you could crop it into a square, you can distort it, but it's a 4-point distort. So if you need to create an octagon, we would need to look into some sort of scissor tool or other shapes that you could crop by. So I'll take a note of that, and we can take it back to the team. Whenever you have suggestions like this, just for everybody to know, if you've got suggestions, definitely add your suggestions to our what do I want to call it? The page where you can request all of your suggestions, and you can invite other designers to vote them up. Cole or Betsy, if you guys are currently watching, can you add the link to the chat where designers can add in their requests and share it with other designers to vote up those features? Because ultimately, the way Design Files works is we take all the feedback that you guys provide to us, and we prioritize the ones that get the most votes. We want to make sure that we're pushing forward on features that matter the most to the vast majority of our designers. So share your features, get votes from other designers, and if we see that that is definitely getting a lot of requests, it becomes one of the next features that we add.
Nice. How do you create this presentation with the arrows to page up and down versus sending numerous design boards at once?
You don't, when you're sending your design boards, so if this was a case where I came in here to submit my design boards and I turn all of these on, the way it works here is that your client's going to get one email that basically says, I don't know, "Hey, Sarah, I've got 11 designs ready for you to review. Come on in and check it out," right? So it's just one email that goes out. And when your client comes in, when they log in, they're going to come in as their client-facing mode. They're going to see it like this with the arrows left and right. So they'll be able to start at the beginning of the presentation and use the arrows to jump all the way through versus going to individual pages, like having to click back to a different page and come in and see another design. They just use the arrows.
Gotcha. So our next question is, I have some clients that don't want to register or log in. I wonder if they are receiving any mail from Design Files. So they
None
don't
at
register.
all.
They would.
Yeah. Okay. So just to clarify, the reason your client needs to create an account is because if they're going to communicate with you through the system, we have to have a location where we're saving that communication. But that's it. Design Files never, ever contacts your client. We respect that that's your client. We're never going to get involved there. The only time we would ever reach out to your client is if you asked us to help your client do a particular action. So if they got stuck somewhere, which they really like we rarely ever get requests for that because we do try to make sure that Design Files is super easy and streamlined to use. But rest assured, they're never going to hear from us. We're never going to try to sell them on anything. They are your client, and you'll see that it's one of the first lines in our privacy terms and our terms and conditions that is your client, and we don't interfere with it.
Cool. Okay, so let's see. Is there a way to add scenery outside of windows instead of having whited out windows?
Yeah. So one of the, if you've ever been on our Facebook group, there are a number of designers who will, let's go ahead. I'm going to open up this. There are a number of designers that will take artwork from the product library and place it, like increase the overall size of it and place it just outside the window. So it looks like there's like a yard scene or a scene of, I don't know, fields or trees or something like that just beyond the window. So that was kind of a fun like workaround that I saw happen on the Facebook group. So you can consider doing that. Just look for artwork within the Design Files library. You can scale them up and place them just outside the windows. And then that would basically reflect that art scene back into the room. One of the things that we can do, though, as we're moving forward with photorealistic 3D renders, we will provide the option for you when you're creating your render to select a backdrop that will go on the outside of the windows, and it'll be like a cityscape or a backyard or trees or something like that, so that you can have that on the other side. But for now, if you just want to quickly show that there's a scene outside, you can use that workaround trick that other designers have used, search for artwork, and then place the artwork just outside of the window here, scale it up so that it's larger than the window size. And then when you create your render, it's going to basically show that scene through the window.
Nice, exciting. We got a couple comments about the room budgeting feature, that like the board cost total has disappeared within the editor, and some people are wanting that back so they can know as they're building out a room that they're on budget.
Got it. So there is a reason for why that was removed. So the way Design Files works, the budget, let's go into this design right here. So there was a reason for removing this, because the way it was working is that if a designer added in, let's say we were doing a dining room design, you might not necessarily want to include 8 dining chairs within your design board. You might only want to include 1 or 2. So this concept of having the budget up here only worked if you put every single element on the design board that you wanted to include within the design. So it could be a case where you needed to add in 8 or 12 dining chairs, or you needed to add in, I don't know, 8 pillows, or your mattress, your pillow inserts, the things that you don't necessarily want to include within your design board. So what we actually found was it was better to allow designers to just create the designs that they wanted, where they didn't have to clutter up the board with a million different pieces, and then have the ability to adjust your overall totals here on your product list. So you could bump up your dining chairs here to say something like, I don't know, 12 or 8 or whatever the case may be. And then your overall total shows on your product list level. So there was more control by including the quantities on the product list level versus having to include every single detail onto your mood board in order for the totals to tally up correctly. Let me know your thoughts on that, though.
Okay, let us know your thoughts. Back to the getting clients to sign up. We have a request to create some kind of like a promo template within that like initial sign up email, so that like the client would know like why this is important, how like great the communication is going to be, what it allows us. So maybe we can create some sort of do Do we have like an email template of like why they should sign up?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I don't think I fully
Maybe
grasped it.
I'm not understanding. I'll read it exactly how she wrote it in case I'm interpreting this wrong.
Okay.
Can we get a sort of promo for how great communication it allows us? We might include that in the initial sign up email.
Okay. So, just a quick question then. I'm assuming that that's going to be referencing the project discussion panel, the new project discussion, this new panel here, where you will have a full history of all the communication between you and your client throughout the project. And if you like the idea of sharing that with your client so they get a sense for how easy it will be to communicate with you, we could definitely look into, I almost wonder if it's more like preparing a video, because I did get requests from other designers to prepare a video that shows that you could share with your client to show how the discussion panel works and how you would communicate through the system. So we could do a video that shows that, and you would be able to share that with your client. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess I'm a little bit confused about the promo angle here. Diana, do you have thoughts on that?
I don't know. I was thinking it meant, she said, I think a video would be great and put it in the sign up email. She's talking about the email that the client is going to get something to encourage them to sign up. So
Okay.
kind of messaging or explanation video of why they want to make that account.
Okay, so maybe what we could do then is, because there's so many different ways where you would initially bring a client into the project. So essentially the way it works is that you might first introduce the client to DesignFiles by having them fill out a questionnaire, and then they have to create an account in order to submit the questionnaire. Or you might first introduce them to DesignFiles by asking them to come in and sign off on a contract. So there's different ways where they could first be introduced to the platform. So maybe what we would then do is we could create a video that shows how the client will interact with the discussion panel, and we could have maybe some sort of preset text that designers can choose to either include or remove from that message that basically says, okay, if you choose to sign up to DesignFiles to review your project, it's going to be really easy for us to communicate. Here's a quick video that shows you how. And then you just incorporate that text into the message, into the overall custom message that you're going to create for your client for that email. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, some people are saying, like a video to explain to clients that's going to be exciting and useful. Others are saying, just like a quick intro on the client benefits, that DesignFiles is like a one-stop shop, all the communication history that you have. So yeah, I think maybe just a couple options within that email that you could, select, or have some template text or a video link that they could they could include what they want. Yeah,
definitely something we can consider doing. So yeah, and maybe it makes sense to not just primarily focus on the discussions, but just here's how to use DesignFiles on a whole, and here's how it's going to be easy to help you navigate your project and keep in communication.
Yeah. Back to that project discussion, is it possible to copy and paste images into the discussion panel?
You can. If you are leaving a message, you'll see that there's an option down here to attach an image. Mm-hmm. Copy and paste. Let me just try something. Copy. And if we can't do it, we can always look into doing it. So,
yeah.
Oh my goodness, guys. I've got too many slides open here. Yeah, so we'll have to work on adding the actual copy and paste functionality, but for now, you can attach an image. So if you save it as a JPEG, a PNG, a GIF, anything like that, then you can just attach it here.
Great. So we are a little over, so we should probably wrap up. I know we got to most of the questions, but I think there's a few that we weren't able to get to. So everybody just know, you've been heard, and we're going to go through these comments. We always go through these comments after, and make sure, that we've kind of, gotten all of the feedback. So, if anybody's watching the replay, also feel free to drop comments there. And then there's always the upvoting, the feature upvoting board as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So maybe
hopefully,
we'll drop that link in there again, where you can request features.
okay. Well, hopefully that was helpful. I just wanted to kind of get across that there is the opportunity to actually create your full presentations using the mood board tools as well. Would definitely love to hear your thoughts on this as well. So if you jump into your Design Files account, you give it a go. If you feel there's any sort of areas where it's a little limited, where you feel we could improve upon it, let us know. We're constantly taking feedback. We want to make sure we're building everything out to be as easy as possible for you guys. But hopefully this presentation gave you an idea of what is possible right now and what you can actually create with it. And of course, if you have questions, reach out to the team on the live chat. We're always happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Talk to you guys
Bye.
later. Bye.